In the grip of the Great Depression, the United States government formed the Farm Security Administration, or FSA. A key part of its mission was documenting the plight of impoverished Americans. During this period in 1936, Dorothea Lange worked for the FSA. Her task involved traveling and creating records of the difficult conditions faced by many. While journeying through Nipomo, California, Lange encountered a makeshift camp. It housed destitute agricultural workers, their hopes dashed by a recent failure of the local pea crop. There she noticed a woman with several children. Lange later recalled feeling compelled to approach the family, describing the pull as magnetic. The woman was Florence Owens Thompson. Lange remembered explaining her purpose, though the specifics faded over time. Thompson asked no questions. Lange proceeded to make 5 exposures with her equipment, moving progressively nearer from the same vantage point. A 6th rendering was also made during that encounter. One specific creation from that day quickly gained widespread recognition. It began to represent the struggles of an entire generation navigating extreme hardship in the United States. Its cultural resonance grew, achieving a near-mythical status as a symbol of the Depression era. Yet for over 4 decades, the identity of the central figure remained unknown to the public. The document spoke powerfully, but the person remained anonymous. Roy Stryker, head of the FSA Historical Section, considered Lange's rendering the ultimate expression of that time. He felt it was a singular achievement, never surpassed, bestowing a kind of immortality upon its subject. Collectively, the works produced for the government program received high praise. Edward Steichen lauded them as profoundly moving human documents. Eventually, in the late 1970s, Florence Owens Thompson's identity connected to the famous document became known. She stepped forward, sharing her story. Thompson expressed complex emotions about Lange's creation. She acknowledged its role in bringing attention and aid to suffering workers like herself. However, she received no financial benefit from its fame. For her, it primarily served as a stark reminder of past poverty, reinforcing her determination never to experience such destitution again. A tangible benefit finally arrived near the end of Thompson's life. In 1983, she faced serious illness, including cancer and the effects of a stroke. Her family, struggling with the medical costs, made a public appeal for assistance. They sought help for the woman known to many only through Lange's work decades prior. Donations arrived from across the nation. Accompanying letters spoke of the strength and inspiration people had drawn from the enduring record of her resilience. The appeal successfully raised over $35,000 for her care. Florence Owens Thompson passed away on September 16, 1983, in Scotts Valley, California. Her gravestone bears an inscription, Florence Leona Thompson, Migrant Mother, a legend of the strength of American motherhood. Florence Owens Thompson's story began long before that encounter in 1936. Born Florence Leona Christie in 1903, her origins traced back to Indian Territory, the land that would become Oklahoma, and she carried Cherokee heritage. She married young and, like many others seeking opportunity, moved westward to California during the 1920s. Tragedy struck early when her first husband died, leaving her a widow with 6 children to support amidst growing economic instability. Throughout the early Depression years, she worked tirelessly in fields and took on various jobs to provide for her growing family. Life involved constant movement, following harvests across the state. The situation Lange documented at the Nipomo pea pickers camp represented a moment of acute desperation during that difficult journey. The crop failure had eliminated work, leaving families stranded without income or food. Upon processing her findings from Nipomo, Dorothea Lange delivered them to authorities and editors. News accounts featuring the documentation spread quickly. Subsequently, reports indicated that federal aid, specifically shipments of food, was rushed to the Nipomo camp, offering immediate relief to the stranded workers. This suggested a direct, tangible impact resulting from Lange's documentation efforts. After leaving Nipomo, Florence Thompson and her family continued their search for work and stability. She eventually remarried and, through persistent effort in various occupations, established a more secure life in later years. Her children often spoke of her resilience and unwavering resolve. She was determined that her family would overcome the poverty she had endured. The specific record Lange created that day in 1936 resonated far beyond the immediate crisis. It became an enduring artifact, communicating hardship and endurance to successive generations, even while the subject's own life story remained largely separate from its public journey for decades. The historical account, therefore, holds both the weight of a nation's difficult era and the specific, lived reality of a determined woman navigating immense challenges. Dorothea Lange's interaction that day produced a series of records. Each captured a slightly different moment as she adjusted her position relative to the family. Several of Florence Thompson's children were present during the encounter. Their presence underscored the maternal anxiety and responsibility central to the scene Lange documented. Years later, when Florence Thompson spoke about her identification, she sometimes expressed frustration. She felt the label migrant mother didn't encompass the entirety of her life or her identity. She emphasized that her family had moved on from that specific moment of hardship. They were survivors, not perpetual victims defined by one instance of poverty. Despite her personal failings, the record Lange created continued its independent existence. It became a staple in historical studies and discussions about the Great Depression and documentary work itself. As events unfolded, debates sometimes arose concerning the ethics of such documentation. Questions were raised about representation and the relationship between the recorder and the subject. Dorothea Lange herself operated under the FSA's mandate. The goal was to create compelling evidence of need to garner public support for government relief programs. Her commitment was to truthfully convey the conditions she encountered. The resulting documents served that purpose effectively, influencing public perception and policy discussion during that era. The story, therefore, encompasses the government program, the artist's intent, the subject's lived experience, and the enduring power of a historical artifact. It highlights the complex interplay between individual lives and their representation in historical memory. The records Lange created in Nipomo were transmitted swiftly through government channels. Roy Stryker, overseeing the FSA project, recognized the power of the Thompson series almost immediately. He selected one specific rendering for widespread distribution. Its journey into the public consciousness began through newspapers and official reports highlighting the agricultural crisis. Throughout the subsequent decades, that particular documentation gained immense traction. It was frequently utilized in publications, historical surveys, and educational materials discussing the Great Depression. Its persistent presence cemented its role as a shorthand representation of widespread suffering and endurance during that period. The human element resonated deeply, even without knowledge of the specific individual's story. Dorothea Lange herself continued her work, documenting various aspects of American life. Yet the Nipomo encounter remained a significant point in her career, often cited in discussions of her contributions. She spoke about the responsibility she felt as a documentarian. Her aim was not merely to record hardship, but to foster understanding and potentially motivate change. As the years passed, Florence Thompson's children grew up carrying the memory of their family's struggles and their mother's strength. Some later shared recollections of that time, adding personal dimensions to the historical narrative. They confirmed the conditions Lange captured: hunger, uncertainty, and the constant search for work that defined their existence as agricultural laborers in the 1930s. The rediscovery of Thompson's identity in the 1970s added another layer to the story. It shifted the focus from an anonymous symbol back to a specific person with her own perspective on events and their representation. Her assertion that she and her family had moved beyond that moment served as a reminder. Historical documents capture a point in time, but life for the individuals involved continues and evolves. Ultimately, the legacy combines the historical weight of the Depression, the impact of government-sponsored documentary efforts, the artistic achievement of Lange, and the resilient life story of Florence Owens Thompson.